Mention a town in Ekiti State that Biodun Oyèbánjí has not touched. In this climb, in our society here, they don't really like anybody who is too outspoken, who can say it the way it is. We came to Okemesi to start Ejire Fuji. We were the first to introduce Fuji music in Okemesi. We know that guy is qualified, but no, we will not vote him in. They prefer someone. Well, there is no way you talk about this kind of a thing without offending people. The problem in Nigeria is that most politicians don't have second address. Most of them, you see them, they say, I'm a politician, I'm a politician. I don't see myself as a politician. Rather, I see when we are struggling to get power, we should be careful of what we say, what we do, agreement we enter into. The president has even done him a favor in a way, because the House of Assembly that was intimidating him with impeachment is also suspended. Some people are saying the president ought to wait for National Assembly. No, the position of the law is that
Hi, welcome to the very first episode of Femi Unfiltered, where we have fun, deep, and thought-provoking conversation with some of the brightest minds out there. And what better way to kickstart this journey than with someone whose life has been nothing short of inspiring. Today, I have the honor to talk to someone who has won many hearts, a veteran journalist, an author, a lawyer, and a PhD holder in law. He has shaped narrative, influenced policies, and has mentored many in his line of work. But beyond all these titles, he's also my father. In this episode, we drive through his journeys through journalism, his childhood, and the decision to pursue law, his experience in politics, and the wisdom he has gathered along the way. We will also explore his role as a family man, his thoughts on Nigerian politics, and many more. This is not just an interview, it is a masterclass in resilience, leadership, and purpose. So sit back, relax, and join me as I have this unforgettable conversation with Dr. Femi Oguntayo. Welcome on the show, Daddy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Femi. Thanks so much.
I know this is our first episode, and we are glad to have you as our first guest. This is a great honor, and I really want to say thank you for agreeing to do this. And I just want you to feel free. It is a podcast, and we just want to interact and just talk about generally everything. And we just want to know you, get your view about things, and share with us knowledge and some wisdom. We want to tap from your wealth of experience and get wisdom from you. So it's gonna be just free flow of exchanging of ideas and just talking about everything. So thanks for joining us once again.
Thank you very much. It's also an honor for me to be here as the first person to appear on this podcast. So I'm really grateful and I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, sir. You're welcome. Of course, anytime, any day. I mean, you've been such an inspiration to a lot of us, and I mean, it's just normal for us to always want to hear from you, and also just tap from your world of experience. But for us to start this podcast, I would just like for a lot of people watching, and just people that are meeting you for the first time, I'm sure they want to know who is Oguntayo Unfiltered. But I would want to start from mostly your childhood. Take us back to your childhood, growing up as a young boy, I don't know if mostly you want to start your childhood story from the street of Ibadan in Southwest Africa, or you want to start as a young boy in Okemesi Ekiti. Just take us back to 1969, was it? You know, how your childhood was like many years ago.
Thank you, Femi. As a matter of fact, I'm an indigenous of Ekiti State in the western part of Nigeria. I'm precisely from Okemesi Ekiti. Okemesi is in the Ekiti West local government of Ekiti State. And Okemesi is one of the 7 towns in Ekiti West. Okemesi has 3 wards. I was born there in the late 60s. Precisely, I'm in my middle or late 50s now. I'm in my late 50s, close to 60. And I want to say that I grew up in Ibadan, even though I'm an indigenous of Okemesi Ekiti. I grew up in Ibadan. My mother, a businesswoman, trading in Ibadan. My father, a teacher. You know, my father taught in 26 towns in Ekiti towns and villages. And, you know, in those days, teachers can do politics without, you know, teachers could do politics without any harassment or anything. So my father was a politician. He rose to become the chairman of the United Party of Nigeria, UPN, then under the leadership of Chief Femi Oguntayo. Growing up, we were young, but we saw the way they were playing the politics then. You know, under UPN, our house was always full of people, dignitaries, male and female, all sorts of things like that. And I can say that I really enjoyed my childhood. You know, my father was a polygamist, so we have others. I have other siblings that are of different mothers. You know, we enjoyed ourselves. Daddy, can you say this person belongs to this mother? This because my mother was the eldest wife, and she brought everybody together. And growing up, that up to today, I don't even know mother of some of my siblings because my mother was like a mother got to all of them. And my mother is late now, died 12 years ago. My father died 26 years ago, precisely in 1999. When I grew up, I had my primary and secondary education in Ekiti State. I went to community high school, Okemesi Ekiti, where I finished my secondary school in 1986. That's 39 years ago. I finished my secondary school there. And after my secondary school, I briefly went to Oyo State College of Art and Science, Ile-Ife, where I had my A-level. I didn't finish there before I gained admission to the Polytechnic at Ekiti, where I spent 2 years and returned to Ibadan for my industrial attachment. Thereafter, I gained admission again to the Polytechnic Ibadan, where I did my national diploma. And during that period, that time was when I can really say that my youthful potentials were discovered because I was the editor-in-chief of the press club in the Polytechnic Ibadan. Because the press club was vibrant then. Among all other clubs, all writing clubs, the press club was the biggest. And when I became the editor-in-chief, a lot of events happened, some news that some people was ordinarily nobody could break this news because it concerned lecturers, big guns in the school. I broke that story, and along the line, some hoodlums will come and they will come and break our bulletin board, not once, not twice, not 3 times. Because some stories that some people, because my wife, we met there in the Polytechnic Ibadan there, some stories will happen. Okay. Even my wife's, then my girlfriend's hostel, I will pick the story and people will say, don't worry. Kotai, because they usually call me Kotai then. Kotai will not carry the story, his girlfriend is there. The next thing, the following day, they will see, they say, which kind of person is this? And that was when my potential started.
That was an interesting, I know you've jumped a lot of some part of your childhood, but I'm sure you have a lot to share with
Yeah.
us. And that was an interesting part of your stories that you've shared. I would like you to just take us back to, as a child, as a young boy in the street of Okemesi Ekiti.
As a young boy in Okemesi Ekiti, in my teens, when as a teenager, because
Yeah.
we actually, growing up, I had my primary school in Ikoro Ekiti.
Oh, okay.
Ikoro is a town that is very close to Okemesi. My father was
Okemesi,
teaching
yeah.
there then. Myself and my twin brother, we were there. And when we were so troublesome, dad took us to Okemesi that, okay, we should go and stay with our grandma, that is my father's mother then. We were there,
Yeah.
and when the trouble was so much, we were attending St. Andrews then in Okemesi Primary School. I think it was around 1977, 78, or yes. But when our trouble was so much, dad came home and took us to Aramoko, where we finished our secondary school at St. Joseph. St. Joseph was where we first discovered that we are great artists drawing. We won award in the local government then. They conducted a test, a competition in drawing. I think it was Kehinde or myself that came first, and the other person came second. So after that, we returned to Okemesi Ekiti. When we got to Okemesi, it is an interesting story actually, because of our trouble, because we were so troublesome. Dad now felt, let me put Kehinde in Fabumi Memorial Grammar School and put Taiwo in Community High School. And they were saying, is it because they are twins that they are so troublesome? Okay, let us. Kehinde, his name is Julius. My own name is Clement. Throughout my secondary school, nobody knew me as Taiwo. They were saying Clement Oguntayo, Clement Oguntayo, Clement Oguntayo. But in 1983, something happened. Because we used to come to Ibadan to fall, we have Muslims, many Muslims where we're living in Ibadan then, So whenever we went out like that, they call something where the Muslim in the evening like that, they will be beating drums, going around praising people to get money. So when there was this 1983, we were already in, I think, Form 2. Then there was no SS and so on. It's Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, and so on. We were in Form 2 then. So we use our money to buy drum sets, gong, and many things like that. So we came to Okemesi to start Ejire Fuji. We were the first to introduce Fuji music in Okemesi. And everybody started wondering, which kind of music be this? Even before Tala 84, before Tala so 84, we started Ejire Fuji in Okemesi Ekiti. And the thing was trending. Everybody was participating in Fuji. People would come. But my father would say, where do you get orchestra from? My father would destroy our drums and all that, and shares all those other people that are following us. I want my children to read. It will go to school, not to beat drum. And so that was how our childhood was. But when I got to Form 4, I just felt, for how long will I be beating drums and all that? In 1985, I stopped. But my twin brother continued thereafter. So when I left Okemesi, 1986 precisely, I came to join my mother in Ibadan, doing business and all that. On getting to Ibadan, I sold pure water. Then it wasn't pure water. It was actually ice water, because there was nothing like pure water then. They would put ice water inside nylon, put it in the fridge, we'll carry it, we'll sell. I sold rice for my mom. Because it's a trader, she was a trader who was selling all sorts of things. Thereafter, I graduated to selling evening sketch, because there was a daily sketch. Daily sketch in Ibadan then. I graduated,
which was a newspaper in Ibadan,
daily
right?
sketch newspaper. I started selling evening sketch. It was in the course of selling evening sketch that I met a friend called Maruf Popuola Map, in 1986, 87. So I used to sell newspaper to them at Mapo Hall. That is library, Ibadan Municipal Council. One day I went there to sell newspaper, and I saw young boys, my colleagues, they were in the library reading. They were, reading my newspaper. And then my friend said, can't you come here where you are selling newspaper to also be reading? Then we love reading very well. It's not like these days where people are always on Facebook, Twitter, and all that. We will read Shakespeare.
I mean, that was your Facebook then.
Yes, we will read Shakespeare, Pacesetter, and all James Hadley Chase, all that. So when I was going to that library, that was where they told me you can do O level, you can do GCE. It's 5 naira per subject. So I took 3 subjects there: economics, English, maths. Surprisingly, I made the 3 results, and people were saying, "Wow!" So this guy could make. That was how my friend Map, who gained admission. By then, he had already gained admission to Oyo State College of Art and Science. That was how he obtained my form, and we all went to Ife in 1988. It was 87/88. I did combination 018 English, Yoruba, and government. So Yoruba government and CRS. Yes, that was what I did combination 018. So from there, I have an uncle at the Federal Police there who said, if this boy is in Oscar, so Oscarite are usually Togri, this and that. He took me there. But I didn't know anything then. I would have insisted, like my colleagues, that I don't want to go to Polytechnic, because those of my colleagues who didn't even have mathematics, they went to university. Some of them were in Ibadan, some of them are at Ife. But because my uncle was afraid that this one who was doing Fuji, who was selling, this one may go astray, let him quickly come to Poly. That was how I went to Polytechnic. But we thank God,
that was how
it was that Polytechnic education that opened my eyes for education, and I started, and gradually I went to Polytechnic Ibadan to do HND. After HND, I went to the Nigerian Institute of Journalism, where I bagged a postgraduate diploma in journalism. After that, I joined Nigerian Tribune between 1995. I joined first and foremost 1995.
Wow.
When I joined 1995, I was employed as a personal assistant to the executive director of operations, Mr. Folu Olamiti. But because on getting there, I got, caught up with the internal politics there, because there was this Folu Olamiti and there was Biodun Oduwole. I was writing editorial for publication of Biodun Oduwole, who was director of publication, whereas I was PA to director of operations. The next thing I was doing is that they sacked me. I said, what happened? So instead of going to beg, please get me back, this and that, I just went straight for my postgraduate diploma in journalism. When I finished in 1996, I came back to that place where I was sacked, and they now employed me fully into editorial staff. So, and I was hitting. That was during military era. During that military era, I was always eating front page story, carrying stories. I was friend to Dani Faremi and Olisa Agbakoba. Many activists then, Moshood Rubami, and a lot of people like Mr. Jare Ajayi, who introduced me to journalism really, because my first book came out in 1993. And since that book came out, that was when I developed interest in writing. And after that, my book in 1993, another one came out in 1995, that is Fabumi Ekiti. Another one came out in 1997, that is compilation of some of my publications.
Yeah, we will still go deeper into your journalism career. Actually, thank you so far for what you've shared. But these are some very interesting story, and from what you've explained so far, I mean, one would see that you are so passionate about journalism, and with everything you've achieved in your journalism career, being a veteran in the journalism field in Nigeria as a whole, which we'll still go into. I mean, it's evident that you are really passionate about it. But if you look at growing up, what would you say? What are the memories that you would say shaped your career choice? Why would you think you decided to become a journalist, looking at how you grew up?
Thank you very much. All along, the two professions that always came to my mind when I was young, law and journalism. I wanted to be a lawyer, but because I didn't read law, I read journalism and I started practicing journalism. You know, when I was a student, when I was a journalist with Nigerian Tribune, a lot of things impressed me. During that period, we were nationalistic. You know, we were not concerned about money. In fact, there was no social media, there was no phone. I have a mobile phone. If you want to make call, you go to newsroom. And, you know, the likes of Gani Fáyẹ̀mí impressed me. He will call me. I will go to Lagos. I will interview him. Those people were the people that spurred me into journalism. And I wrote about 5 books. You know, I wrote Civilian Revolt. I wrote Ekiti, Fabumi Ekiti Parapọ̀ 1995. 1997, I wrote Voice of Progress, which was compilation of all my publications in national dailies. After that 1997, when I wrote Voice of Progress, I relaxed because I was developing my career until 2009, when I came up with Once Upon a King. No, not Once Upon a King. It was the Palace Boy. The Palace Boy.
Okay.
So when
did you write Ekiti Parapọ̀?
I wrote Ekiti Parapọ̀ 1995. I wrote Civilian Revolts 1993. I wrote Voice of Progress 1997. Then between 1997 and 2009, a lot of things affected my writing, like participating in politics. Because in the year 2000, I came to Ekiti. I was invited by that government of Niyi Adebayo then. I served in the local government as supervisor for health in Ekiti West local government. And thereafter, I went back to my job in 2003. When I went back to Nigerian Tribune 2003, as at that time, I had acquired Masters in Communication from the Premier University of Ibadan. So I was employed as a special editor. I was employed as editor special projects. But when I got there, a lot of politics, intrigues, those people that I met there were saying, Kotai that has gone, just came back, you gave him special project editor, you gave him this, you gave him that. Because of all this politics and so on, in 2005, they established the Westerner. I joined the Westerner. And the Westerner paid me very well, took me to Ekiti.
Westerner newspaper?
Yes, it was the Western Publishing Nigeria Limited. That Western Publishing Nigeria Limited is the mother for Compass and the Westerner. So when I got to Ekiti as a Buru chief, that was where God eventually paid me for my hard work in Nigerian Tribune. Because it was when I got to Ekiti that I traveled out of the country for the first time. What I never did in Nigerian Tribune for upward of 10 years that I served there, that I put all my all into journalism. So I traveled to the Republic of Ireland, where I spent a few months before I came back to Nigeria. When I came back to Nigeria, it was in Ekiti that I was voted in as the state chairman of the Nigerian Union of Journalists. I became the state chairman of the Nigerian Union of Journalists between 2008 and 2011. Shortly before the expiration of my tenure as the chairman of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, the government of Dr. Kayode Fáyẹ̀mí invited me and appointed me as the special assistant on media, 2011.
Wow. Okay, sir. Well, I mean, looking at your trajectory through journalism, it seems you've been a journalist and also at the same time never lose touch of your passion for politics. How would you say, journalism helped you to really be this politician that you
thank you, Femi. You see, the truth of the matter is that if there is anything I am today, it's my profession as a journalist. Even the politics that I play is my job as journalist that helped me. And I must tell you, I trained all my children with my proceeds from journalism. Even though thereafter, later in life, when I ventured into politics, I started making connections and things, But it was my practice of journalism that made me to be relevant in politics. Because, in this climb, in our society here, they don't really like anybody who is too outspoken, who can say it the way it is. So I attempted contesting for House of Assembly severally. and they would deny me and say, Akogun is too vocal. If we don't, let me not forget that in 2002, I was made Akogun Afin of Ipole Iloro. That is my wife's town.
Yeah, that is one thing people would want to know.
It was
What's the meaning of Akogun?
In Nigerian Tribune, coupled with my contribution to that town when I was supervisor for health, that made late Oba Owosheni bright to give me that appointment as Akogun of Ipole Iloro. And my father-in-law was the chief in that town. Anyway, that's another story. By the time I came back here to serve in Ekiti as a journalist, it was my journalism that brought me to Ekiti. And I rose from a reporter to become regional editor of another paper. And during that period, I became the state chairman of the Nigerian Union of Journalists. And when I became the chairman of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, a lot of politics came up. And in the end, I was made special assistant. It was because of that my journalism career that made Femi to appoint me as special assistant media to the governor. And within that same year, I was combining it with director of media and publicity of the then it was called AD or ACN. We later emphasized
the Action Congress of Nigeria.
Action Congress of Nigeria. We later
which is now the APC today, All
APC,
Progressive Congress.
And by that time, I was deployed to Ekiti West, where I became the secretary to the local government. And I sat there for 2 years before they created Okemesi Idoile CDA, and I became the pioneer secretary to that local government again.
Wow.
Before YME's government was swept up by Fayoshe. And immediately that happened, I went back into my journalism profession because I'm a politician with second address. The problem in Nigeria is that most politicians don't have second address. Most of them, you see them, they say, I'm a politician, I'm a politician. I don't see myself as a politician. Rather, I see myself as a professional in politics. And that is why, whenever we are not in government, instead of jumping from pillar to post, instead of moving from one party to another, I go back straight to my profession. And during the period of when we were in the trenches, when Fayoshe was in government for that 4 years, I established my private newspaper called Fountain Newsbreaker. And my two boys, Femi Oguntayo and Kola Oguntayo, they were on campus then. They were in Exu, and they became campus editor. Thank God you are the one interviewing me here. You were there as campus editor. Your brother later joined you in Exu. He became campus editor. It was this Fountain Newsbreaker, the proceeds that I saw within those 4 years, that I used to send my children to school, and they finished their school during this period we are talking about. It was during this opposition period, when we were in the trenches, that my newspaper flourished. And I stayed on this, and it really worked. So when my party, APC, were coming, they were advertising in this paper, and the paper was flourishing. But shortly after Fayoshe left, Fayemi came back in 2019, and 2019, he now made me special. He first and foremost announced my name as Senior Special Assistant, SSA, to the governor, which I did for 3 months. It's on media. Don't forget I told you.
Yes.
Because all along, some people in my town will just say, we don't want Akogun, we don't want Akogun. Not because I don't have good character, but because Nigerians or our community don't like somebody who is vocal, who says it as it is. They like somebody who will come home and make suit talk that they want to hear. And this is the situation in Nigerian politics. So when they made me Senior Special Assistant to the Governor of Media, I was there for 3 months, and the Speaker of the State House of Assembly, late Right Honorable Fumini Afuye, needed a media assistant. So I was promoted to the level of special advisor to the Speaker of the State as the special advisor on media. I did that, and that government ended in 2023, and I went back to my job again. In fact, as at that time, I want to tell you that as at the time Femi was there in the first regime, I gained admission for law to the National Open University where I did my LLB in law.
So you never you never stopped studying even while you were still in government and while you were still in politics, in media, doing journalism and all that.
I love reading. I love writing. That was why in 2009, the Palace Boy came out. In 2011, another book came out, Essentials. Even 2009, I came out with investigative journalism. 2008, I came out with Essentials of News Writing. 2011, The Palace Boy. And just 2017, I came out with Once Upon a King. You know one interesting thing? During Fayoshe's regime, of which I was an opposition, the Ministry of Education approved 3 of my books. 3 of my books for reading in secondary school. And that really, and you will also testify to it that I will carry my children, both you and Kola. All of us will go to all the 180 schools in Ekiti State. I believe in hard work.
Supplying them books.
Selling my books because it's on their curriculum.
The recommended text
While
for
my colleagues were
secondary
busy,
schools.
when some of my colleagues, not all of them though, when some of my colleagues were busy following politicians, taking handouts from them, jumping from one party to another, jumping from APC to PDP, from PDP to APC, I just concentrated on my books as a publisher, as an author, as a journalist. And I will take my children in my car. We go from one school to another and we make good money, millions. Because this school will give me 200,000, this school will give me 150. And from that proceeds, I started building my house in Ekiti. I built my house, I sent my children to school. So it was in the course of doing all these things, the appointments were coming in and all that.
Yeah.
And through that appointment, to the glory of God, I was able to help many people in my hometown, like getting them employment, like getting them career, career assistance and all that. So I really thank God for so far God has helped me. And by the time this government now came in place, I was already doing my PhD at the Afebala University. Because after my first degree in law, don't forget that I had already had my master's in communication arts from the University of Ibadan. I already had my PhD, I had my HND. I now started again law some 17 years ago and finished 11 years ago. I had that LLB. Because of politics, I couldn't go to law school because, politics within the academia, because there was problem, that school, this and that, federal government, the university. Some people said it's a part-time, some people said this. So we had issues. But I didn't allow that to deter me. I'm a man that I don't believe that something can stop me. So when they were saying that our university had issues, therefore they didn't approve our law school, I took that opportunity to write exams into some universities to do my masters. I went to University of Ilorin, I went to University of Benin, and I gained admission there. In fact, I just felt, okay, let me go to University of Benin. And I did that. We had lawyers that were practicing, were in the same class with us. I was among the only 2 of us who came from National Open University were among the lawyers that had PhD grade. With my PhD grade, University of Benin gave me PhD admission. We wrote exam. And when I now consider the danger on the road and all that, I just went, for the first time in my life, let me go to a private university. All my children, one thing that is unique about my life, my philosophy is that all my children went to went to public universities. You went to Ekiti State University. Kola went to Ekiti State University. My daughter, Abimbola, went to Federal University.
Federal University.
So I have 3 graduates out of the glory of God. They all went to public universities. And that is how we are made. I don't believe in
Okay, sir.
because my wife is a teacher. I myself have been lecturing in a monotechnic in Ekiti State, and I've been lecturing in that
Yeah.
institution for the past 16 years.
Just on the record, just on the record, you lecture on at the International Institute of Journalism, Abuja. Yeah.
And I still lecture there now because I don't
Yeah.
believe that. You see, when you get political appointment, anybody can just wake up one day and say, okay, I want to sack my cabinet, I want to sack this. But it is whatever you are doing that will sustain you. There was no time I stopped writing books. 3 of my books are coming out this year. Three new books. They are almost at finishing stage. I never stopped writing books. I never stopped lecturing at a monotechnic institute of International Institute of Journalism. I never stopped my newspaper work. I never stopped writing, doing all sorts of things that can promote my intellectual capability. So I want to say that in this world, whatever makes you happy, whatever increases your energy, whatever makes you to work well, continue to do it. Don't say because you are in the comfort zone of politics, therefore you want to abandon everything that have made you in life. So that is my policy and philosophy of life.
Wow, such an interesting story so far. I mean, with your looking at your journey through journalism as a career person, looking at your journey through politics as having held several offices, in the Fayemi, Dr. Kayode Fayemi's government, and currently you also hold a position in the Abiodun Oyebanji's government. And also looking at your strides in the journalism career. Why would you say you decided to even still pursue a PhD? Looking at the fact that you already have a master's in law, also from the University of Benin. Why would you say you decided to just pursue a PhD, which you already have, by the way? You just bagged the PhD in law from the Afe Babalola University in Ekiti. Just like you said, the first private ever institution you ever attended in your life.
Yes, that's the first in my life.
So what would you say motivated you to pursue this PhD in particular in law?
Well, what motivated
that
me is that as the chairman of the Association of Nigerian Authors, I noticed that some young chaps that were together, most of them are professors, most of them are doctors, and at times when we are talking, they will say, you can't understand because you are not an academic. You can't understand. And I felt, what is some of them? I'm sorry, with due regards to some of my friends, some of them have a PhD in music, some of them have PhD in drawing and so on. I just went, is there anything that is rocket science? Is it not studied? I went to obtain form. I did first degree in law, second degree in law, back PhD in law. And my PhD was within 3 years.
Wow, that's interesting. So what are the challenges you would say you faced, especially with the fact that you are almost 60 years old?
Well, the challenges so far is because I was studying at the same time. My children were studying, my wife was studying. My wife is also bagging his masters this year. So we were all studying. This gave me a lot of challenges because almost every night in the last 20 years, I was always reading from one academic to the other and so on. If not that you are blessed with a good family, at times you don't have time concentrating at home on your family. In fact, my job at times will take me to different places. Like this law, for instance, there was a time we went to do remedial program in law school in Abuja. I was there for almost a year. I was there. Thereafter, I came back. I went to law school in Lagos. And most times, my profession too, I was in Dublin. You have to move from one place. So that's the first challenge. The second challenge is the issue of your books, getting your books sold. Moving from one place to another, carrying your books with your children because you don't want to go begging. You don't want to be begging politicians to give you money to feed, especially when your party is not in government. You can understand what I'm talking about. So it's not easy, but to God be the glory. God saw us through.
Thank you so much for that experience that you've shared with us. like I was saying, I mean, having been successful as a journalist and also looking at your success so far in politics in Nigeria and also in the Ekiti state, what would you say inspired you to want to have a PhD in law?
Thank you very much. Like I said earlier, you know, having two things actually motivated me. One, having practiced journalism for 25 years, I now felt that the job of journalism involves running around, seeking stories, and all that. You know, except you want to be a publisher there later in life, which still involves a lot because you have to, you know, monitor most of these things. I just felt that I should have retirement plan for my life. When I clocked 40, I began to think about it that in the future, by the time I clock 60, what do I want to settle with? Without now go and be selling things, trading, farming, or what? That was when I started law. I started from the scratch to do a degree in law. That was about 16, 17 years ago. Therefore, let me do something. So that in the future, when I retire from journalism, I can go on into legal practice. Legal practice does not require running scatters, scouting for news and all that. It involves intellectual activities. Every job, even journalism, involves intellectual activities too. But when you talk of legal work, you can be in your room, you can be in your library. In fact, most things that lawyers do is in their library. They are done in the library. So I just felt, okay, let me just prepare for the future. That's number one. Number two, like I said, I know that I had a plan of going beyond the level of HND then. And I had the option, do I go and do a degree in mass communication? Because HND is a course that when you do it, you cannot say you want to use it for master's, but maybe now that they are rebranding it and so. But I just thought, okay, because I had the intention that I want to have PhD. And having PhD will mean that I won't just be a never do well person in society. Okay, if I have my PhD, I can go into lecturing, I can go into research, I can do a lot of things. And that's why I just felt, and again in Nigeria, we are in a country whereby when they see you as a politician, the next thing that comes to anybody's mind is that lazy man, don't mind him, he has no job. But with your PhD, nobody can say you don't have job. For the mere fact that you even got to that level to develop yourself, that is called personal development. Nobody can say he's a politician. Because if anybody harasses you or messes up with you in politics, you can drop politics, go to your job. You can do something tangible for your life. You can become a lecturer, you can become a lawyer, you can go to court, you can do all sorts of things. You can be writing books, you can be writing Lego work and so on. So that's basically
Personal development. Yeah. I mean, it's great, and I would say that you really inspired me personally, and I'm sure you inspire all of us, your children, and even people who are not your children. I mean, I've heard a lot of testimonies from people who are just my friends, and they will say, your dad doesn't want to give up, or he doesn't want to surrender, he doesn't want to stop, and I'll be like, I don't know when it's going to stop for us, and it's, you've been an inspiration to all of us, and I would just want to give you your flowers and say, well done, sir. And because I know when you started, and I know when you started. I mean, when you started your law program, it was like a long time ago, and I know what you went through with noun and everything, and now today you have a PhD in law, and you are done with your masters, with your degree in law and everything. So
my little girl of that period that that came during my matriculation, who was a little girl that had not started primary school.
And now she has even graduated from the university.
She has graduated from University of Ekiti Federal University. She has even gone for service. She has come back from service. And here I am. So what I can see in all of this is perseverance and endurance.
Yes.
That one day, you will fulfill your target and fulfill your ambition.
Okay, sir. So away from academia, there's a saying that the politics in Nigeria is not for the faint-hearted. You've been in politics for a while now also. I know you don't like to call yourself a politician, but you are. Looking at your experiences and the positions you've held in government in Ekiti State.
In politics.
Yeah, you're a professional in politics. Yes, but how would you describe? What would you say are your biggest challenges in politics, especially as a professional in politics who is practicing politics in Ekiti State, for example?
Insincerity. Our people are not sincere. That is the real challenge that I know I face in politics. People are not sincere. People will leave. They know that you are qualified for something, especially in the work of politics. In fact, let me just add this. That's another reason why I just felt, can I continue with this kind of system where people will know they say, oh, that guy is qualified, but no, we will not vote him in. They prefer someone. Well, there is no way you talk about this kind of a thing without offending people.
I mean, it's a podcast, and it's for us to bear out your mind. I know you don't want to offend people, but I mean, it's just the truth, right? And I know you for one thing. I know you for, which I know for sure, is telling the truth, no matter whose ox is God.
Yes. I had the real experience of politicking, grassroots politicking. Let me start with when I was made a supervisor. When I was made a supervisor, I came from Nigerian Tribune. People didn't know my contribution to the administration or to the making of me, Adebayo, as becoming governor. We were there in the diaspora. I mean, writing, supporting the governor, interviewing him and so on and so forth. By the time he now made me supervisor, some of the old people at home, they felt, how can this boy just came from nowhere? Well, all these things are in my book anyway. So it's not that I'm running away from it, because in my books names were mentioned. But the book is yet to be out. So what I'm saying is that they were saying this guy would not be. In fact, he initially wanted to make me secretary to the local government in my 30s then, precisely year 2000. But they said, how can you make Taye the secretary? He didn't know when we were struggling. He didn't know this and that. And that was why that secretary went to Erigino, another town. Because they now presented the person who contested for chairmanship with the then chairman, Akeolu Adari. And they presented that man, his name is Abushe, in my hometown. He contested the chairmanship with him. He said, no. That Abushe later moved to PDP, where he became chairman anyway. He's a nice man. He's a beautiful, fantastic person. So when they couldn't make me secretary, the governor now felt, okay, go and give him supervisor, so that at least having left his job in Ibadan. They came together again and said, no, we have one old man. They brought somebody who was already in his 70s to replace somebody who was just 30, in my 30s then. But I now put down my feet. I said, okay, this one. They said if I accepted that position, I won't last for 3 years. I won't last for 7 days. And they started all sort of diabolical things. It's God that saved me. You can still remember you and your brother, you were in my vehicle one day. That was a day, that was the time I was having accident almost every week. But God saved me. And after 2 years in office as supervisor, in my 30s, I just thought, okay, let me contest for chairmanship. I contested for chairmanship. People voted for me at the primary. It was because we have 2 constituencies in our local government. the constituency 1, constituency 2. Constituency 1, it was Aki Oluwadari who was there as the chairman. And it is believed that, okay, this thing is now coming to constituency 2. And the constituency 2 now voted for those of us that were contesting. We were 4. I defeated all of them. I emerged as the chairman. But the new Adebayo government there said, this man is too radical, this man. In fact, it was across the entire 16 local governments of the state. They were doing and picking this place. The way it was happening to me in Ekiti West, it was happening to my friend Mike Inubile in Oye. It was happening to some people in Ado. So they just decided that this woman will not fly the party leadership candidate and so on. They said that chairmanship is returning to Adamoko, where the incumbent just finished. So at that moment, I left the party. In fact, we went to bring on no party just to confront them. But after a while, I left the place 2003. I went back to my job. So from my job, I rose to become I've narrated this story. I came back to Ekiti State 2005 as a journalist. So in 2007 again, when we were, practicing journalism, I thought, let me make an attempt to go for House of Assembly. Don't forget, at that time, I already had my master's. I already practiced journalism for more than 10 years.
Even been chairman of the NUJ.
I've been chairman of the Nigerian Union of Journalists. And then also in fact, I came back from Europe. I came back from Ireland. So everything my people wanted was there. But some people just sat down and said, will this guy be controllable? If we make him chairman, this guy is too exposed. They went and bring somebody else. And of course, that person was Fashaki, who at that time had HND. And we had primary. They didn't even allow us to have the primary. There was skirmishes here and there. There was a skirmish. And as a result of that, they just picked him and said, this is the person we saw. And of course, there was. Don't forget, by the time they picked somebody for the chairmanship then, eventually that swept off me at the Adebayo's government. And Fayose came because there was crises everywhere. All the places, all the local government where they will impose chairman and so on. Hey, Adebayo performed very well. Extraordinarily well. But because of the imposition then, many of us left the party for them. And PDP came. And someone that was relatively unknown, Fayose, took over. And that was how that government ended. The same thing, what they did in 2007, and they now imposed Fayose. And as a result of that, PDP won in my constituency. We went to court, we did all that and so on. He won. So 4 years later, 2011, I contested again. They said, okay, that person that lost then, and now we should be compassionate. We should be the one to go and so on and so forth. I said, let us go for primary. And so it became a tug of war. They said, that person is calm, is this, is that, is quiet. Eventually, they gave him the ticket, but because APC was in government then, we worked together with him, he won. I don't want to talk about his tenure.
Yeah, of
the
course.
The town can talk about that. Of course. They now say, but interestingly, before his tenure ended, many of them would say, Kogu, we regretted we didn't vote you. If we know we would have supported you. Don't forget that each time they didn't vote me, God was always compensating me with something good. Appointment. So when they now give me that appointment, instead of reciprocating in their paying them back in their coin, I will do well. I will do a lot of things, employ their children, assisting them
as an appointee of the government.
As an appointee of the government, the other time they rejected me as a House of Assembly member. I was given special assistant. I became secretary in that administration, secretary to the local government, and so on. So when I now went to the local government, they now saw that, so this one is like this. Then when I was in the local government, part of the things I hate in politics is insincerity. They know that, I had many challenges.
You are talking about your time as the secretary to the local government in Ekiti West.
Yes, right? During my tenure as secretary, something will be coming to local government, some people will want to corner it, and I will say no. They say we are leaders, and this money should go round to the wards. They want to corner it. I said no. As long as I'm here, this thing must go round to the people. When somebody is to be sent to pilgrimage, maybe to Jerusalem or Mecca, they will say no. It's a leader, somebody who already went to Mecca, will want to still take the ticket so that he or she will go and sell it. I said no. I put down my feet. In fact, there was a particular incident. This person happened to be from Osun, but he played politics. He was in Okemesi. He was doing well. They call him Isiaka. We made sure that this person was the one that would go to Mecca. They said it's not an indigenous of Okemesi. As a result of that, they wrote petition against me. And they went to the governor and said they don't want Akogun. That's part of the things we are talking about, some of these governors. We thank God for the governor we have now. Well, I'm also grateful to Femi because at least to a very reasonable extent, I grew politically and I can say that added to my CV. But you see, every governor has his own characteristics and attributes. They wrote petition to him and he listened to them. He accepted their this thing even without yet hearing from me. And he sacked me from that local government. It was then I now said, no, this cannot happen. This is an injustice. I took it up. Thank God to Chief Gidi Awe. He was the state chairman of the party there. He took it up with Ada Amodu. And they said, what happened? They looked into it. And a lot of people participated. Late Baba Fakbunda, the father of the then Attorney General. Because those people went to deceive Attorney General that I'm a bad person, I'm this, I'm that, and he also recommended to the governor then that okay, this is what the people want, my hands are tied. But thereafter I became closer to Attorney General. He now knew that okay, you are not actually this kind of person, you are not this kind of and at the end of the day, they showed him too, they ganged up against him. They ganged up against him. The same manner of things they did to me. So politics in this our area is left
so what has all those experiences has all those experiences taught you about
they have taught me
how to play politics in Nigeria?
They have made me to be very strong. They have given me native intelligence and they have made me to know in life that at times you may be looking at this is where I want to be useful to the society, but God will say this is where you should go. So all this why a lot of people that we started about 20 years ago, some of them became that House of Assembly. We never hear of them again. But since then, I was supervisor, I was secretary in the local government, I was special assistant to the governor, I was senior special assistant to the governor, I was special advisor to the speaker. Presently, I'm technical advisor to the governor of Ekiti State. Technical advisor on public communication.
Yeah, talking about that. Currently, you are the technical advisor to the current governor of Ekiti State, Abiodun Oyebanji, on what's the correct
public communication technical advisor on public communication politica.
Yeah. So as the technical advisor to the governor on politics, media, and public communication, we've seen the governor come in less than 2 years. He has enjoyed overwhelming support from everybody in the party, in the state, not just even in the party, but even opposition party. The first time in Ekiti politics, we know Ekiti politics has always been very brutal. It has always been very, very brutal and bitter. I mean, I've seen what has happened in politics in Ekiti for years, having experienced different governors from Fayose to Fayemi. We saw the rerun of Segun Oni and all those things. But this is the first time ever in our political experience in Ekiti State where a serving governor will have the support of all the governors that has ever served in the state. Why do you think this is so? Even the oppositions are campaigning for him. Why do you think this is so?
Well, you see, Oyebanji has always been home-based person. He was a lecturer here at college at EXU, then UNAD. He was a lecturer there in Unite, and thereafter he became um, what's it called, the accountant. He became an accountant in a bank. Thereafter he became a farmer in Ekiti state and all sorts of things, and he has been there since the inception of new administration in Ekiti state. So he was there as a chief advisor to the chief of staff to
Niya
He was
Adebayo.
personal assistant to Niya Adebayo. During Fayemi, he was commissioner. He was SSG. With this long chain of experience, his father is there, his mother is there. They were all teachers and all that here. So as a result of that, people love him. And people say, okay, we want to try a homeboy for the first time. Somebody who is always with us. And I think that worked for him. He knows the system. He knows our people. And as a result of that, people love him. People believe in him. And this really worked. I can tell you, this is the real reason why he was voted. Because people felt that, yes, this man has been with us all along.
Okay, so and also we know he enjoyed the support of political giants in Ekiti State. I mean, across parties. And we also saw the popularity he had when he won the governorship election, because that was the first time also that a party leaving government would be able to be succeeded by someone also from that same party, in Ekiti State. So that was also a first. I mean, we saw that Fayose tried it with was his deputy governor, but he failed. And we saw that Dr. Kayode Fayemi left, and someone from his own party also became the governor, which is Governor Yebanji. But would you say that he still enjoys the same popularity that he enjoyed when he won the election in 2022?
A lot of factors contributed to Oyebanji's popularity. Apart from being a homeboy with native intelligence, apart from having served with many governors, apart from being one of those people that agitated for the creation of Ekiti State, because he was secretary of Ekiti State creation then, when Ekiti was to be created in 1996, even as a young man. Apart from all these facts, when he was secretary to the state government, he assisted many people. His contribution to humanity was unprecedented in the history of that office. Almost everybody. So when a successor was come up, everybody was saying, "No, we want BAO Ibanji. We want BAO Ibanji. We want BAO Ibanji." Now that left. That went. By the time he became governor, when he first became governor, he worked like a workaholic, and he's still working like a workaholic as we speak. Mention a town in Ekiti State that BAO Ibanji has not touched. For instance, in my hometown, Okemesi Ekiti, there is a road there. That road has been jinxed. Itaure to Okemesi. Almost everybody is saying, when will the Itaure to Okemesi be done? Go there now. Job is almost at 50%. They have almost, 50% done. They have cramped everywhere. They are already doing it. The same thing, there is another road between Idoile and Okemesi. Job has started there. That road between Ogotun and Ipole, that road has been jinxed for a long time. He has done it. Then between Ilawe and Ikere, that road has been done too. Go to Ekporo area. A lot of development, in fact, in the area of road construction. Mention it in Ado-Ekiti metropolis. Almost all the hinterland roads have been done. Look at the overhead bridge that is being done now. People are saying, is backing cash flow money project. These are projects that by the time, even as they are still doing it, is contributing to capital development. As people are working, they are paid. Then you want to talk about human resources, managing people. You see, most of the past governors, in the past, you see people fighting, Fayose fighting with his leaders. Some people in the Fayemi and the Fayose had issues. Niyi Adebayo had issues with the likes of Femi Falana, Otunba Arupe, but they all came there and they said they wanted to become governor. Baba SK, Babalola, all of them, they gang up against the Adebayo and the same party. And eventually all of them were going to different parties. SK Babalola went to PDP, Falana went to NCP, the Otunba Famuyibo went to ANPP, and all sort of things. That was how they collapsed that ambition, the second term ambition of Niyi Adebayo. Come to Fayose. Fayose came and he was giving water to people, he was doing all sorts of things. People liked him. But shortly after he came, he had problems with those people that brought him in. And they were saying, no, this man must go. He started, so he and Fashuba, who happened to be chairman of Ado Ekiti, they fought. And many people, all those SK Babalola that brought him to power, all of them, they were nowhere to be found. Now came Segun Oni. Segun Oni, we know that in his own case, he had issues with the law. And they said his government was illegal by the Supreme Court. He too did not last. Fayemi came. When Fayemi came, everybody was saying, yes, that's all. But shortly after, they were saying he's too elitist in his program. He had issues with Fayose. He had issues with this. He had issues with some lawyers and so on. And at the end of the day, Fayemi left. But this one now came. Having studied all these people, having known what is happening, what happened to all these previous administrations, he brought in Niyi Adebayo, who of course was his boss and is still his leader. He brought in Fayose, who is from another party. Even Segun Oni that they contested together in the last election. Segun Oni, don't forget, contested under PDP, under SDP.
Yeah.
Social Democratic
SDP
Party,
against him.
when
Yeah.
PDP rejected him.
Yes.
When they
Yes.
went for.
I think he came second in the election.
When he even came third. PDP came second.
Okay, was it third?
PDP came second.
Oh, okay.
So,
but I mean, he had a lot of votes. I mean, he was one of the major contenders.
So, now, Honorable Bisikola Wale in F1 contested under PDP. This governor brought Bisikola Wale.
Yes.
Bisikola Wale is now saying that, as far as he's concerned, as a leader in PDP, he is going to support Oyebanji for second term. Fayose is saying, as far as he's concerned, he's going to support Oyebanji for second term. Niyi Adebayo is saying, as far as he's concerned, he's going to support him for second term. Even Fayemi is also saying that, as initially people were saying, Fayemi has not spoken, he's too silent. Because at times when he got to some functions, he would say, we are not talking about politics now. I'm not concerned about second term now. But at a stage, people were saying, where did Fayemi belong? And in December, this 4 months ago, he announced to the area of everybody that I am for BAO and for Oyebanji. All of them. They even Segun Oni, who contested together with him, they interviewed him recently and he said, well, as far as I'm concerned, Oyebanji is doing well. And I've not seen anybody who has surpassed him. If I see before election, I will tell you. You know what that means? So basically,
yes,
the man is doing well. Talk of physical development. Talk
so
of
are you
power, the capital development, and all sorts of things. BAO is touching life.
So are you saying for one to really be accepted the way Oyebanji has been accepted in Ekiti state politics, one has to really be home based? Are you saying people who are
is an advantage? Who
are really passionate
is
about,
an advantage.
Who are really passionate about? Okay,
is an advantage.
So are you saying people who are really passionate about the development of the estate and have gone out to really get knowledge about how to really bring about real development to their people? Are you saying those people doesn't really have a chance when it comes to politics in a state like Ekiti State?
It's not that those people who have traveled out in search of greener pastures don't have a chance. But what is there is that Shebi Biodu too, after some time, traveled to work in Lagos, work in different places. but with his rudimentary knowledge of our people. Okay, see you for instance, you were here, you study in high school, you study in Nexu, you work with Attorney General as
Yep.
media assistant, you work with Nigerian Tribune, you spend larger part of your life here, you married here before you travel. If you, I'm just taking this as an example. If you come back to Ekiti now and say, I want to be chairman, I want to be House of Assembly, they won't say, who is Femi? We don't know him, we know his father. They know that you were also here. Gone are the days when somebody will come here and say, my father was so, and so therefore I want to be governor. No! They will tell you it cannot work that way. What have you done? What have you contributed to the state? Look at Oyebanji.
Actually,
people are now saying, I'm coming.
That is what
people are now saying. He has done this, he has done that. He was secretary state creation committee. He was a lecturer here. He was a student here. He was this here. So even if you are in abroad, you must have certain impact. You must have created certain impact in your hometown. In your town, they must know you. There are many people that are staying abroad that are assisting in their hometown, that if they feel that person will win election. Whereas there are many people that are in Nigeria that cannot win election when you present them. So it depends on your feasibility, it depends on your availability, it depends on your generosity, it depends on your compassion, it depends on what you are doing to the people. The moment you are not useful to the people, people will not support you for anything.
Wow, interesting. Looking at what is happening in Ekiti State with the support that Oyebanji has, likening this to what is happening in Rivers State, especially with Wike and the current governor that was suspended, and the crisis that is happening in Rivers State, what would you say the Rivers State politicians can learn from Ekiti State politics, especially with the issue of as people want to say godfatherism, and which is actually what is causing the crisis in Rivers State? What would you say the politicians or the actors in this Rivers State crisis could learn from Governor Oyebanji and what he's doing in Ekiti State? Yes.
I remember Joe Biden rose up and said, okay, this is the person I want. Is that not godfatherism? For crying out loud. That's godfatherism.
Some people would want to say that that was just an endorsement, which is normal because people still.
His endorsement is you endorse someone with your money. You endorse someone with your. Are you saying that Joe Biden did not support Kamala Harris with money? Do they come to show to the whole world? Didn't they spend state money in support? You see, there are a lot of things undercurrents that we cannot be talking about here. The point I'm trying to say is that what is happening? Okay, now all the 4 past governors of Ekiti State are godfathers to Ekiti State governor as we speak. So it's not that it is Fayemi alone that is his godfather. Niyi Adebayo is his godfather. Fayemi is his godfather. Fayose is his godfather. Segun Oni is his godfather. Because he's able to manage all of them. Failure to manage Wike very well is responsible to what happened to Fubara in Rivers State. If Fubara has been so intelligent enough, you have 2 terms to spend constitutionally if you are elected the second term. And you are just spending the first term. You created enemy for yourself, enemies left, right, and center. You are fighting Wike. You are fighting your House of Assembly members. You are fighting different people. You are fighting traditional rulers. All these things created problem for him. If he had been so wise enough, you want to fight the system that produced you, and you are just having your first tenure. You were not even patient enough to spend the first tenure and wait until maybe by the time you now come on second term, after you have won, you can now come up with some policies that may be, that can be your own. From beginning, you have been saying, this is my red biro, I'm going to use it. This red biro, I will deal with federal, I will deal with Supreme Court, I'm giving Supreme Court too much laxity, I'm giving presidency too much laxity. All these things are, to the extreme. And there is, like the Supreme Court judgment said, that is starving out the House of Assembly, rendering House of Assembly useless. And in governance, government has three organs: legislature, judiciary, and
executive. Yeah.
By the time executive is now there and the legislature is now there, there will be problem. So that is exactly the problem in Rivers State.
But when we look at this issue, isn't governance the major thing when it comes to politics and government? I mean, when are we going to be free from the influence of godfatherism in Nigerian politics, where a sitting governor of a state, has to please whoever was his godfather? Or because when we look at this issue with Rivers State, we saw what happened also with Ambode in Lagos State, that he was removed because he wasn't doing the bidding of the then godfather, who is currently now the president of the country. And this issue of Fubara also with Wike, who is also not even an APC member, but is serving in the current president's cabinet, and is now having influence on what is happening in Rivers State, an elected governor. I mean, when are we going to be free from godfatherism in Nigerian politics, where governance will be what really matters and not the governor just pleasing these godfathers?
Thank you very much, Femi. You see, let me tell you, basically, we're going to be free from godfatherism. Then we drop democracy for plutocracy or aristocracy, or maybe, but as long as we practice democracy, you see, it may not be as pronounced as it is now. But you see the case of Ambode that you presented. At a stage, Tinubu himself was even saying, leave him, let him go. But the Goshen said no. It's not about godfatherism concerning Ambode alone. The man got there from, records and all that. Because I'm not in Lagos. I don't live in Lagos. But from records and testimonies and interviews that we read that were not controverted, they said Ambode, being a civil servant who was never into politics, came there and became so powerful, so power drunk, that he was like destroying some of the legacies built by the party. He was destroying the party, and the party now felt no matter what you are, it is the party that produced you. So immediately he finished his tenure, the party said, we don't want you again.
So by the party you mean the people or the current president?
The party that produced him is, at least when you say party, the party will have structure.
Yes.
We have leaders of the party at the ward. We have leaders of the party at the constituency. We have leaders of the party at the local government. Leader of the party at the state level. All these people said they don't want him again. They said he didn't do well. You see, a lot of things, part of the things that make people to support government is that they can live well. They have dividends of democracy. If you are selling things, you have your goods sold. But this man, according to them, Ambode came and he started taking away what people depend upon, those who are local contractors. He started getting consultants, getting people. He said he wants this one, he wants this, he wants that. And by the time they wanted to field candidate for the second term, they told Ambode, go and tell all your experts to come and feed you. We produce you. Yeah. Among us, we have engineers. Among us, we have lawyers. Among us, we have contractors. You deny us of all these jobs. You went for consultants. Let consultants produce you now. See, it's a long story.
Yeah.
The same thing here. In the case of Fubara, yes, but in the course of fighting his boss, this thing, before that election, go and watch some of the videos that we saw. He was cursing himself. I am your sweat. Wike, you have suffered for us. The day I do this, let this happen to me. And see, they just got to power and they started doing all those things they said they won't do. When you curse yourself that if I ever oppose my boss, let this happen to me, all that he said should happen to him are the things that are happening to him now. So I just want to say that when we are struggling to get power, we should be careful of what we say, what we do, agreement we enter into.
Yeah.
Because going by some of the publications which are not yet controverted too, they said this man happened to be from nowhere, that Wike made him accountant general of the state, As Accountant General of the state, EFCC was looking for him. Everybody was looking for him. At a stage, they said Wike kept him in the government house throughout his tenure, that EFCC could not come to the government house to arrest him. At the end of the day, when Wike was going, he now felt if he releases this man, EFCC will just pick him, and of course, he and Wike must have done one thing or the other. They are concerning the treasury of the state.
Yeah.
And Wike too now felt, okay, let me just make this man the governor, so that he will have immunity. He will be untouchable. He now made you the governor, and you became untouchable, and as a result, all the things that EFCC was to try you for, they couldn't come for you again. You now say that person who now make you the governor will now be happy by the time you want to edge him out. Two things a godfather wants. He wants loyalty and he wants control. He wants to control you. He wants you to be loyal to him. Why not just anybody who wants to control godfatherism in Nigeria must not be produced by godfather. The moment you are controlled by God, the moment you are produced by godfather, there's no way you can confront godfather.
Interesting. So looking at the state of emergency that was declared in Rivers State and the suspension of the governor and the House of Assembly, as a person who is who is now in the law as a PhD holder in law and a lawyer, what would you say about that declaration? Because it was controversial. A lot of people thought that was impossible, and how would a sitting president suspend an elected governor? No matter what we want to say about godfatherism, there are laws that govern a country and a state. Would you say what the president did was legal and correct?
It is not for me to say that what the president did is correct or incorrect, but what is the position of our law?
Yes, of the Constitution.
Section 305 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria says that the president has power to suspend to call a state of emergency, to call for a state of emergency when there is a state of anarchy in any state. And that section does not say that when you call for state of emergency, you can suspend governor or you cannot suspend governor. That is a lacuna. In law, we call something a lacuna. Lacuna, it is when there is no clear definition of what will be done at a particular, when there is a fixed legal confusion. And they say, okay, as a result of that, which means if you want to call a state of emergency, now what do? You say, okay, nothing should go on the way it's been done before. Suspension has to come in, and the suspension is not that they say that okay, he has removed governor. The governor is coming back 6 months, and for me, I look at it not only from the constitutional point of view, but I also look at it from political point of view. I think it's giving Fubara a soft landing if we care to look at it from that angle. Already the House of Assembly was about to impeach him. Yes, you can say House of Assembly cannot get away with it because Fubara appointed the Chief Judge of the state, and Chief Judge will not do this. For there are those people who are saying that are forgotten that if the Chief Justice of that state, the Chief Judge of that state failed, if he had failed to set up panel to impeach the governor, the people can petition him to the National Judicial Council, and the National Judicial Council will prevail upon him to set up that panel because it is within the purview of his duty.
So you are saying the president did him a favor, in a way.
The president has even done him a favor in a way because the House of Assembly that was intimidating him with impeachment is also suspended, meaning that all of them are back to ground zero. It means they all come back and say after that 6 months they must have learned their lessons, and they belong to the same party. They will all sit down and say, do we want to go on like this? Because all of them will not be paid. They will now come together. And don't forget that they now said the National Assembly, when they were endorsing the emergency, said they will wade into the crisis and resolve within that 6 months. So the position of the law is that there will be a proclamation by the president, announcing the state of emergency, after which the National Assembly will ratify. And that was exactly what happened. Some people are saying the president ought to wait for National Assembly. No. The position of the law is that there will be proclamation, then the president will go to the National Assembly.
Interesting.
If the National Assembly now feel it's not supposed to be so, then they can nullify it. But that is the position of the law. And only the drafter of that law can tell you what was on their mind when they did it.
Wow.
It is, nobody can just come. The law is what it is. And when the law is made, it's for us to obey it. It happened during Obasanjo era. It called for state of emergency in Plateau State. Even in Ekiti State here, it called for state of emergency and few other places. But what people are now saying is that Obasanjo did it to his party. This person is doing it to another party. But it is not just about that. It's about what is the position of the law.
So, there's one of my favorite books of yours is Civilian Revolt. I don't know if I noticed you didn't mention it when you were.
I mentioned it.
Did you mention it when you were listing your books?
I mentioned it's my first book in 1993.
Yeah, so it's one of my favorites of your books, or let me say two of my favorites. Civilian Revolt and Fabumi Ekiti Parapọ̀. I love those books a lot. I remember when I read the Fabumi Ekiti Parapọ̀, I was still very young then, and it's always amazed me how you were able to write that book, in pure Yoruba dialect. And I love it so much. I just love it so much because of the fact that it was written in Yoruba, and it was written about the history of the war that happened, during the period of the Ekiti and Oyo Mesi and all those periods. So some of the question that just keeps going through my mind was, what inspired you to write these two books in particular, Civilian Revolt and Ekiti Parapọ̀? What was the inspiration behind those books?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, you asked a question before. Did I study Yoruba? Yes, I studied Yoruba. Not just at O level, but at A level. I did Yoruba at Ife, Oyo State College of Art and Science. And with this, I have an idea about Yoruba. And that made me to be versatile in writing Yoruba. Concerning what inspired me, I think it was in 1994-95, we were at University of Ibadan during the Association of Nigerian Authors reading. The author of Kiriji War, Chief Wale Ogunyemi, read part of the work. He read it in English, and people clapped for him. So he now said he's from Ibadan, where Kiriji War ended. Something now came to me that what I knew about Kiriji War, because it's the same Mogu Ekiti that they call Kiriji War. Now what I knew about it is that it started from my town. I have had people say so. I raised up my hand and I said, "Sir, you are from Ibadan. This Kiriji War you are talking about started from my town." So when we finished, Professor a professor called me. I will remember his name. A professor called me and said, "Taya, are you from Mukumasi?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Can't you write this book? Since you know about it, go home and do the research." And that was how it started.
Wow, interesting. Well, what about civilian revolt? Because I know it's more about the
Yeah, Civilian
military rule
Revolt.
and
Civilian Revolt was my first book. It was written in 1993. I was inspired by the situation of Nigeria then, even as a student, because I was at the Polytechnic Ibadan then. I wrote it in 1992 and it came out February 1993. So it's, that's why an author is a prophet. The book was a narration of what happened to Nigeria, but in the book it ended with interim government. Even before the interim government of Shoneka came to existence, before they announced it at all, the annulment of election of result came up in the book before the annulment of Babangida. So that is why they call an author a prophet. So the civilian revolt, I was inspired by the situation in Nigeria because then I was following a lot of human rights activists and all these things inspired me.
wow, great. Your book has also been, many of your books have been recommended for, as text for high school students and kids all over the state in Ekiti State. What would you say is the importance of reading to, especially to young children, at that early stage of their lives? What would you say? Because I could remember when we were really young, you encouraged us to really read a lot. You would buy books for us and just challenge us to read them and tell us if we could finish them in one day. There's a present waiting for us and stuff which really helped us a lot. I can remember it was almost like every week then, every Sunday, you just bring a book and tell us, not just us, even our friends too. Ayo, I could remember then Ayo, it was in Ibadan, and you would give us the books and said after anyone that can finish it in that same day, they are present for us, and it's really helped us a lot. I could say those are one of the things that really helped me today to really be interested in reading, and also helped my diction and the way I speak and all those things. So what would you say is the importance of reading books in the lives of young children, especially in a state like Ekiti State, which is known for academics and stuff like that?
Thank you very much. There is a saying which says a reader is a leader. A leader is a leader. So when you say a reader is a leader is a leader, it means someone who reads is synonymous to a leader. Because when you read, it broadens your knowledge, it widens your knowledge, it exposes you to a lot of things. You may never have visited America, but when you write a book written on America, you look as if you are living in America.
Yeah, you are actually there.
That you are actually in America. So reading takes you from one pedestal to another, and when you read, it encourages you to write, and when you write, it gives you opportunity to bear out your mind, to develop the society, to develop. So the reading culture in Nigeria is very small now. It's very, very low, but with time, I know we will get there.
And which I think it's also worth mentioning that you were also the chairman of Association of Nigerian Authors in Ekiti State, and in fact, are you actually not the pioneer chairman of ANA in Ekiti State?
The pioneer chairman, the first elected chairman of ANA in Ekiti State, and that was 7 years ago. Before then, I was the PRO, Association of Nigerian Authors, in Oyo State for good 2 terms between 1996 and year 2000.
So which means your contribution to even the Association of Nigerian Authors in Ekiti State can never be, can never go without, being mentioned. Yeah. So also let's talk about family. I mean, you've been married for 31 years now. That's a lot of time. What would you say is the secret to being married for this long? I'm like two years in marriage, and I know it's not easy.
Prayer and God favor. Because if I tell you, it's a bottle of rose, I'm just lying. It is not easy even to be married for 10 years. But we thank God that what my marriage of 31 years have seen, that is still standing. Many marriages did not see half, and yet they have collapsed. So, but you see, the Bible says a wise woman organizes her home. The success or otherwise of a family depends largely on the women. Though it depends on the two, but it depends largely on the women. So I want to say I give glory to God for giving me my wife, giving me a woman who understands life. Because we disagree quite all right, but at the end of the day, my wife will not allow me to go out with that disagreement, and because he knows that anything can happen within a short period of time. So it is give and take. The life, and this is a marriage that has produced 3 graduates, and through the cooperation, my wife is a teacher, is a disciplinarian. She disciplines the children, and the children, she's at home front while I'm traveling here and there. No matter what I do, if there is no someone who is strong taking care of them, at times when I bought all these books, when I do all that, she will be the one at home that will say, this is how to write A, this is how to write B, this is how to write C. And to the glory of God, today, they are all graduate except one of them who is about to enter university any moment from.
Wow. Interesting. And you mentioned something about you when you were out, and the mother taking care of the children at home, which leads me to the question about balancing of career. We've talked about how you've been well read, doing all that, politics, journalism. How are you able to balance all this with family life?
That is what I've just said. Because God gave me my own wife, who, when I'm not around, takes charge effectively of the home front. Because if not so, the children wouldn't be as successful as they are to be. But my wife will always cooperate with me, and she's a prayerful woman. The place of prayer too cannot be overemphasized. And I want to say that God has always been on our part. Everything in life, success of my marriage is God's doing. It goes beyond my knowledge. And I can't say, yes, this is what I've done, this is the magic. No, it is God that did.
Wow. That's interesting. So lastly, because we're almost done with this interview, what would you say, is the most valuable lesson that fatherhood and, now that you're also a grandfather, has taught you?
Fatherhood taught me to be hardworking, to be honest, to be sincere, to be principled, and engage his children in intentional parenting.
So on this final episode of the show, we just have some very fun and light-headed question that we just want you to answer, and there are just maybe 3 of them. Just quickly, it might just be some one-word answer, but we just want to hear what your view are about this. So what's one thing about you that you think might surprise people that they don't know about you? What's that one thing?
I think that will be read in my book. A lot of things. When my book is out,
can you give us one of them? Just one hint. People might want to know what's that thing that that they just really don't know about you, that would surprise them if you tell them?
I've told you about being a Fuji musician.
Okay.
People will know one thing that led me to opt out of Fuji, which was when myself and my twin brother were into Fuji. It was because we were fighting over the proceeds. Yes, you are taking proceeds. I'm not taking proceeds. That made me to leave Fuji, and I thank God I did. And that was the beginning of my success in educational career.
Wow, interesting. We'll be looking forward to your book. We are now, in fact, now we are looking forward to reading that book. So another question.
No,
I mean, if you aren't a journalist or like a politician or an academic, I mean, your career as an author, if you are in that, what is that thing that you think you would have been?
I don't even know what I'm about, but probably I would have been a printer because I love books from time. I would have been a printer. I'm still a publisher now. I would have been into printing.
Okay. So let's say you have a chance to be in front of the world or in front of the whole country, and they give you 30 seconds to pitch yourself, for president of Nigeria. What would you say? To
do what?
To be the president of Nigeria. What would you say? In 30 seconds.
Well, I will liberate my people. If I have the opportunity to be the president of this country, I will seek the face of the Lord, and liberation will come to the people.
Wow, interesting. What's your favorite music?
I love music. Can I even say there is a particular favorite? Because I love music generally, gospel music, Yoruba music, English music. So it depends on it. In Yoruba music, I love Saheed Osupa's music. In English, I love Bob Marley music. In gospel, I love all these Nigerian gospel musicians and all. So I don't know that I have a specific one above every other one.
Okay, lastly, see Ronaldo or Messi? Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi?
Who is Ronaldo? I'm not a footballer.
I know. That's why I asked you. I just wanted to put your legs, but
I don't even know what is Ronaldo a Nigerian footballer. I don't even know because I'm not a footballer.
That's interesting. I think
I don't play football.
This would be a perfect place to end this video. But thank you so much for joining us.
It's been interesting and
insightful. Thank you so much. All the best. And as your son, I pray that you live long enough to reap the fruit of your labor.
Thank you so much. I also pray that by the special grace of God, east or west, home, you will bring all things, good things from abroad to Nigeria in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you so much. And I will hope to see you some other time on the show when it becomes bigger than this.
Thank you, sir. By the special grace of God.
All right, sir.
Thank you.
Bye. There are going to be a lot of exciting videos coming out of this channel with very, very thoughtful and inspiring interviews. You don't want to miss out on all those things. Click on the red button below and subscribe. And also don't forget to turn on the notification button, because that way you get notified when we drop a new episode. Okay, thank you for doing that.